everybody! Okay, so last week we did this card and I kind of changed it up, so I had it with an extra thingy bob on it. I also did this one, this in my craft class later in the week. So then I was trying to work out how to do the double. Now, some of you will have probably already done the double. So this week for the live stream we've got 2 cards and they're both variations on the double. So we're going to start off with just the double version of this in a 5x7 as a landscape, and then we are going to progress on to another version of it, which is my own original version, which I haven't seen. So stay till that point. If you want to dip out and dip back in again, you can, obviously. But yeah, I've had a bit of a play already. Haven't actually put it together yet, but I've kind of started to. So the first one is the double. So for this one, you're going to need one piece of base card, which is 5x11. And on your 5x11, you want to score it at 2 inches and at 4 inches. Okay, and then you're just going to like Z fold it. So you've got a mountain and then a valley. Okay, so that's that one. Then you need one piece of base, which is 4.5 by 5, and on the 4.5 inch edge you're going to score again at 2 and at 4. Okay, so that's your 2 and 4. And then what you're going to do is your tab section is going to be a valley, and then so your 2 inches a mountain and your 4 inches a valley basically. And then we're just going to go ahead and stick that onto the back of there. And I think I'm going to go with red tape, just so we're not moving around. Okay, so this is going to go at the back. If you want to stick it on the front, you can, but I think it's better to stick it on the back. So let's just... Now with wet glue it is slightly easier. However, I didn't want to have to wait for it to dry. So let's just do that and remove. There we go, so that gives you that. So when you're trying to get it into that corner, just make sure you get it in but it's not too close in. So that is your card blank, and then in the inside here you want a piece of pattern that's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So that is going to go on there. Okay, so then what you want to do is you want a piece of card that is 5x7, and what you want to do is cut it into 5 strips that are 1 inch by 7. And then once you've done that, so imagine that was a 1x7 strip. Let me just just been sat on my desk for a while, so it's got a little bit dusty. Let me whack these on. So these were all 1x7 strips. Then what you want to do is take 2 of them, and you want to cut 2 of them at 2 inches. So you end up with a 2 inch and a 5 inch piece. One of them's going at the top, so you've got 2 inches then 5 inches. One goes at the bottom, switch it round, so you've got 2 inches on the right and your 5 inches on the left. Then 2 of them you want to cut at 2 3/4. And again, one goes at the top, so you've got the 2 3/4 and then the larger piece, and then the one at the bottom, the 2 3/4 goes on the right hand side. And then the last piece you just want to cut at 3.5, which then gives you this. So then you want to, let me grab my paper. So I decided to go with 2 different pattern papers and then use half of them for this first card and half of them for the second card. So I'm making things complicated, but anywho, why not? Let's just go for the, let's just go for the most involved. So I've cut out, let me just move these over. I need to actually cut them into their sections. So I cut out one piece that was 3 3/4 by 6 1/2, and then cut it into strips that were 3/4 of an inch tall. Kept the 6 1/2. So that was 3 3/4 by 6 1/2. Same with this one. And as you can see, this pattern carries on, which is why I wanted it to be one piece rather than just doing random strips. So then what you want to do is you want to cut these strips up then. So obviously just for doing one card you just need one piece, but because I'm doing 2 cards and I want to do half of a pattern on one side and then the other half with a different pattern, I've cut out 2 lots. Okay, so that's why I've done what I've done. So then what I want to do for all of these, the top and the bottom you're going to cut at 1 3/4. Now if, like me, you have one that is an actual pattern that you want it to be a certain way, you just need to be careful. So I need to cut 1 3/4 on here and then 1 3/4 on here. So I'm going to quickly do that now. The next 2, so these 2 here, you need to cut at 2 1/2, and again same rules apply. So I'm going to cut from one side, the left hand side, and make the left hand side 2 1/2, and then I'm going to grab this one and do the right hand side as 2 1/2, and again I've got tape on the back of all of these pieces, so then you end up with that, and then the middle one is at 3 1/4 is the middle one. Do not get them muddled up with your base card pieces. So what I'm going to do for this one is I would like to have, so this is where things get a bit more complicated, I think I want to have my pattern on, no actually let's go with pattern on this side. So I'm going to put these ones, all this left hand side is going to be this pattern here, so that's all going to go there, and all the right hand side is going to be the green. Okay, so I am really making things complicated for myself, and then this one was going to go on the original card. So I'm going to bring my little cork board back in, which is ready for the other one. So let me go and stick these down then. So now we're going to go ahead and stick these down. So I'm going to do one side first and then the other. So let me move this to one side, put that over there, and then we're going to do this side here. I'm going to use wet glue. It's a bit debatable whether glue's a good idea. It sort of is, because you can move things around, but the only thing is that I have found that it will move, something moves, so yeah, but we're going to go for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a bit of glue on the bottom there, get my bottom piece, line it up on the left and along the bottom, and stick it down. So this is when you find out whether you've actually cut an inch for each strip or whether you've cut more than an inch. And this is another reason why I use wet glue, because by the time I get to the top I do sort of sometimes have a bit of time to reposition. And then this one's going to come along and it's going to butt up and go on the left. It's going to butt up along the one I've just done, and also on that left hand side. Then we're going to do the next one. I'm kind of working at speed. If you're using double-sided tape you don't really have to work quite so speedy. And the reason I'm working speedy, as I said, is because I want to be able to move, if I need to move anything, I want to be able to do it before the glue dries. I'm going to do the top as well. There we go. And then we're going to line this one up here like that, and then last but not least this one. Actually we've done okay. It's a little bit taller at the top, but it's fine. It's just making sure that edge is all nice. So that's that side done. As you can see, the pattern carries through. Right, that's that side done. So now we're going to do this side. We're going to do the same again, but obviously the other way around. So we're going to start with short and work our way up. I'm going to be dangerous and do 2, try and glue for 2 pieces. So there's your, and when it's shut it should, I mean I've got a few gaps but that's okay. I don't mind a little bit of a gap. It's not too bad. And you open it up and you've got all that space to then write. If you wanted to, and this was something that I did think about doing but didn't, I'd already cut pieces out, you could make this piece fold up. So you know how last week we had it with the extra bit that folded open on the inside? You could make that so that folds up, so then you can put your message there, or you could just write your message here if you don't mind, you know, your message being on show. I'm going to probably put my message on the back, I think. So I'll probably put a white panel over the top of this, or make a matte and then do a white just to cover up that tab. And then I thought we could have a happy birthday and have it up there. So I'm going to cut this one out. Right, that's going to go up there. Okay, so that's that one. So that's that one. Now, this is the next version. So this version is, and I'm calling it, see, I get a bit confused because I know Sue Stampfield has done this same card and she calls it like a puzzle piece card. So I think for this, I prefer, Sam, I have to say, I prefer your version, your staggered Z-fold description title is better, I think, because it adequately, you know, it makes it, it explains what it is. So the version that I thought we'd have a go at, I'm calling a 5x7 staggered puzzle piece double pillar card, because it's not a Z fold anymore. So this is the pillar version. So you've got the same on the front, but it opens up not very far and you've got these pillars. So this is like the and it stands up fine. And I thought then you could write on the back, put your message on the back. So this is a pillar version. I've not seen this one before. It might have been done, I'm not sure, but I kind of was like, what can I do? Because I knew this was going to take me not very long to do, because I had it all prepped. So I was like, right, what could I do? So I was trying to work out, and I thought, you know what? Pillars are always good. We always love a pillar. Let's whack a pillar in there. So that's what I've done. So that's what I've done. So the pieces that I had left over from here, we're going to use again on this one. So obviously it'll be flipped round. And I am going to do a pillar version. For this pillar version, you are going to need, right, so the base card, we're going to change up a little bit. So I was trying to work out the best way of doing this, and I think we might have it. So the base card for this is 5 by 10 7/8. And the reason I've done that is because 1/2 is going to fold up to be a pillar. And if you make it 7/8 rather than an inch, it just tucks in better, and you can't really see that it's tucked in. If you want to just make it as a tab, make it 1/2 inch wide, you can. But I just thought, you know what, let's just go 7/8, and then I know it's going to fit, it's going to tuck in, and hopefully it'll work. So on this one, you want to score along the long edge at 7 inches, 8 inches, 9 inches, and 10 inches. Okay, so that's that one. We'll fold in a minute. You then also need a piece that is 4 7/8 by 5, and again this is 4 7/8 for a reason. So 4 7/8 by 5, so on the 4 7/8 edge you're going to score 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches and 4 inches. Okay, so that's that one. And then you also need another piece that's 5 by 7, but this is the piece we're going to cut into strips. Okay, so I'm going to have to do that on my live because I wanted to show you how I do it. Because obviously with the other one I just kind of already pre-cut, but I thought let me do it from scratch for you guys for this one. So with your big piece that is 5 by 10 7/8, you just want to mounting fold all of your score lines. And you want a decent weight card. I think this one was a 240 maybe. So can you see there what I mean? So because it's this is 7/8 of an inch across here, there's just that little bit there. So then when we fold it round, you know it's going to be able to make into a pillar, but it's just not going to get in the way. You're not really going to see that there's a difference there. And then this one here, just make sure you know, well actually you'll when you score it and fold it, you'll soon find out. So this is the 7/8 of an inch section. I'm not going to mark it because you can see. You can see that it's the shorter side, but you just want to make sure that's the one that goes on the inside of your pillar. Otherwise, you know, otherwise it goes a bit wrong. Right, so then what we're going to do with this one here, on this end piece here, which is the 7/8, we're going to go ahead and put glue on this side. I'm going to use wet glue. You can use red tape if you want to, but I'm going to use wet glue. So there we go, a bit of wet glue. And then I'm going to fold it along the second score line. So there's my first, there's my second. And then fold the whole thing over and on top and just press down. And then that just means that you end up with your little pop-up pillar, like that. And because it's wet glue, it may well move. So I'm just going to make sure it doesn't move. So that is your first pillar. Then your other one, you kind of want to stick it together first. So that's my 7/8 of an inch edge. I can tell because it's just shy of the score line. So I'm going to bring this over, and then I'm just going to fold that down. So I'm just bringing it again. First score line, second score line. I'm going to put glue on that outside edge here. So if you've got like access to super long pieces of card, you could cut it out of one long piece of card, but which I do have, but I thought not everyone does, so let me just do it out of an A4. So that's like that. Now, because I've stuck it flat that way, I then want to flip it this way, and this bit is going to stick onto here. Okay, so I want it to fold flat, and I want it to fold flat inwards, not outwards, because you've obviously got your 5x7 footprint. So if I turn this over, I'm going to go ahead and add glue on this section here. Again, you can use red tape if you wish. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this onto this edge. And I'm just going to line it up, make sure it's straight top and bottom, make sure it lines up on the edge there. So that is like that. So that's your basis kind of done. And then we just want to add in the middle here a piece of pattern paper, and this is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4, so that is going to go in the middle. Now the thing with this version is you don't have like much space, you can't really see much of the middle basically, because you've got the zigzag strips. So whatever you do, kind of factor that in to your card design when you work out what you want to put on it. So on my original one that I showed you, I put flamingos and like just a little bit of decoration on the back. So I'm trying to keep this back pattern paper relatively not as busy as the front one, if you see what I mean. So that's that. We also need a 5x7 white, not 5x7, 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 white on the back. So I'm just going to turn this over, and that is just literally going to stick on the back, and it should fit. Yes, it does. Good. And then we'll turn this back over. Right, so this is now the time to cut up our 5x7. So your 5x7 that you've got, you want to go ahead and cut it up into 5 strips that are 1x7. So there you've got your 5 pieces that are 1x7. The top 2 you're going to cut at 2 inches. And then one is going to go there on the left, and one 2-inch piece is going to go on the right at the bottom. So that's going to go there. These 2 you're going to cut at 2 3/4. So one there and one there. And then the middle one you're going to cut at 3 1/2. So now we want to go ahead and add the rest of those pattern pieces that we had. So these pattern pieces here. Right, so let's stick these down. Okay, so let's stick these down. So the trick this time around is to make sure that this edge comes to this edge on your card. So I'm going to grab my glue, and again we're just going to put a bit on. I'm going to squash that flat a second. I'm going to put a bit on. I'm going to do 2 layers. It's a bit daring, but anyway. So I'm gluing on, so this bit stays plain because that's the side of your pillar. I'm gluing on the top side of your pillar, and then grabbing the bottom one, bring this in, line this up along that left hand edge and also along the bottom. So like that. And then grab the next one. So as you can see, I don't want to take too long, but as you can see, it sort of sticks proud, but it just means it folds flat and will fit in the envelope for 5x7, but it means that it does stand up. Then we're going to grab the second one, and again I'm just going to make sure that it lines up on that left hand edge, because that is kind of the priority, because then it makes it look neater. Now I have got it with a glue spillage, which isn't good. Oh, and I'm drifting off. Yeah, there, that's good. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and add the next one in, which is this one. And again, just make sure it lines up on that left hand edge. That's your key, and it lines up with the one below as well. You kind of bumped up to, you know, up against each other. Then we're going to do the next one, which is this one. And let's whack that in there like that. And then last but not least, you've got this on top, and this one, hopefully, if you've cut it right, you will end up with it. This will be in line with your actual pillar. So that's the whole of that side. I'm not going to touch them because they're still wet, but if I open it up, that's what you've got, and that's what you've got. So you've got all the little bits of the strips hanging off the edge. So that's that. And then we're going to go ahead and do the other side. Now I found it's better if you just kind of flick that off to one side and then go ahead and stick that down. Don't worry about them meeting in the middle so much. It's more important they line up with this edge here. And if you do that and you've cut them right, you shouldn't have them bumping into each other. They should be fine. Let's do this side here now. So we're going to go ahead here, and I'm going to again fold this down flat and make sure it goes inwards. Get my bottom one, and that is going to go on there, and again line it on that right hand side this time. And obviously you're putting the glue on the left this side. If it helps, once you've got your pillars on, just put a little pencil mark, and then that will remind you where to put your glue, because in a moment of madness when you're sticking stuff down, you can quite easily end up with glue on the wrong side. So I would probably advise just putting a pencil mark on your actual pillar, because you're not going to see it. Once you start sticking all your strips on, you're not actually going to see it. So you could do that. I'm going to do one at a time now. So let's do the next one in. So that's that one there. Like that. Just trying to make sure they're not all wonky. I don't think they are. It feels like it's going up, but I don't think it is. And then we'll go for the next one, which is there. And then the last one. There we go. And then that one's going to go in there, like that. And if you just make sure they all line up on the left and they butt up against each other, you should end up with a nice neat thingy. So there you go. So as you can see, you've kind of got like the Dead Sea, like the parting of the Dead Sea. You've got like a nice little, or like a volcanic, you know, where the seismic plates shift. That's probably all wrong. You know what I mean. So that's that one. And then I've got a wishing you all the best, which I'm going to put here. And then, you know, my little cutout pieces. In fact, let's do the cutout pieces before we stick that down. So this is the pad. And as you know, it's available. This is now available on Amazon. These pads are now available on Amazon. They finally put them through, so that's good. So I didn't know whether to have some little trees popping out from here. So a little bit of a guide for this. Because of the way this goes down, because of the way this folds down, you have to remember that the top and the bottom strip, if you put anything behind, it cannot go past this edge, because this edge, when it folds down, is going to be like in line with here. You do have a bit of a gap underneath the pillar, but I would advise against it, because I think it's going to end up getting bent, or it might come off, or it might just be, it's just going to be troublesome. So if you're going to stick anything on, like underneath, like coming on these steps, which I think would be quite cool to do, like for example this palm tree, then I would advise that you have it, like I would probably have it there, so then the edge of the leaves come in line with this edge, because then when it folds down, as I said, you know, it's kind of, I kind of want it just to appear rather than it overlapping on here. So I'm going to cut, anyway, I'm going to cut this tree out. So again, you can have some bits in, just work out where your sight line is. So with this fully up, that's how much gap I have. So that's how much you can see. So just bear that in mind when you're, you know, trying to work stuff out. Okay, so we've got to stick this in now. I think the best way to stick them in is going to be, because it's not going to have a lot to stick on, it's only got a tiny amount there. A tiny amount there that's going to stick on. I think I'm going to use a little bit of Yoo-hoo glue because I know it's going to stick straight away. I could use red tape maybe, but I think we'll go with a tiny little blob of Yoo-hoo because I know that once it's stuck, it is going to be stuck. Now on this side, I'm hoping this isn't going to be a problem with regards to closing up, because that's going to come down and that's going to come down. Yes, so that's fine. So the Bon Voyage is fine. You could do, actually, I'm just wondering if I should put the map coming from the other side instead. I just need to be careful. No, I can't. I'm going to have to do it from this side, I think. Yeah, let's do it from this side. There we go. And then I'm going to put the tree. I'm going to put the tree at the back. I say I could put the tree coming behind there, but I think it needs to go actually on the back. So I'm going to put a little bit of silicone glue on. I don't want loads because obviously I don't want it to impede how flat this goes. Okay, so there you go. That's the opened. That's with it opened. And then obviously with it shut, now I've got to be careful because it's got silicone glue. I'm going to go this side first. And then this side. So you've gone from that. That's how it'll be in the envelope. And then when they get it, they open it. Donk, and you get these little bits that pop up. So again, as I said, you could really go to town with this. You could have all kinds of things popping up from behind. You could have a little scene behind there. You haven't got a lot of view, so just bear that in mind when you're constructing and you're working out your bits and bobs. And then on the back, you've also got space to write. Oops, I've just dropped something. What was that? Oh, it's a bit of offcut. That's fine. So there you go. There's your two different versions. So the original version, which I love this version because you've got more space. So if you want something a bit more space, I think that's your option. And then you've got obviously the pillar version if you want to go a slightly different look. So that's that one. And then there's the other one. There's the original one of the pillar that I did. So there you go. That is the card for today. Hope you all enjoyed it. Bye.